Hello and welcome to Productivity Nerd, a podcast all about getting shit done, hopefully in an elegant way that doesn't leave you too broken. In our crazy worlds, we're all about balancing the need to work enough to make ends meet, enough not to annoy our bosses, but also enough that we feel like we've done enough, which can be a whole different psychological and emotional ballgame, along with the human need to rest and stay well. Plus, on top of that, we'd quite like to enjoy ourselves, maybe just a little bit along the way, spending quality time with those we love. I, for one, love hearing about how people get that balance and work more efficiently so they have more time to do the things that they love. Hello and welcome to Productivity Nerd. I'm Kathy Soulsby, and today we're doing something a bit different because productivity isn't just about task lists and planners, sadly. Sometimes it's about looking up from your screen and asking, where am I? Is this room helping me work or is it killing me slowly? My guest today is Natanya Gidoomal, interior designer, somatic trauma-informed coach, and someone who has studied a lot about neuroaesthetics, which is a lot of words. But what it really means is she understands how our physical environment impacts how we feel, how we cope, and how we perform. So she is going to make us think about our workspaces really differently. Let's crack on. Hello and welcome to Productivity Nerd. I'm Kathy Soulsby, and today I'm joined by Natanya Gidoomal, interior designer, somatic trauma-informed coach, and someone who has studied neuroaesthetics. She's taken a really fascinating route to thinking about how our spaces affect how we work. Hi, Natanya. Super to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. So exciting.
Well, you've got an unusual background. You've come at this kind of work through a bit of interior design, some coaching, and obviously, your own life experience. Give us the potted version of how all those threads connect.
Yeah, actually, the why the threads connect is just really exciting for me. I always had this kind of inexplicable draw towards working with trafficking survivors. I didn't really know why. I just kind of wanted to do that. And so I've had a few businesses over the years, and in all of them, I've tried to create a kind of partnership with different nonprofits or charities that worked with trafficking survivors. And then when I went into interior design, I started partnering with nonprofit organizations that employed survivors and created like homeware brands and that kind of thing. And it was only when my husband sat me down and said, "But what is it about trafficked women that you're so obsessed with?" That it made me think about, okay, actually, yeah, that is a good, valid question. And I think when I sat and thought about it, it was about the trauma recovery work and creating pathways to recovery. And it wasn't so much about the actual trafficking itself. And that kind of opened up quite a different way of thinking towards how I interact with it. And when we relocated recently to the UK, I was unable to find work in the interior space. It was, I think, a combination of different things, but safe to say, B&Q's probably marketed me out of the space. So I actually used the opportunity to kind of do some more studying. And having had this conversation with my husband, started to investigate the trauma route. And to cut a long story short, ended up studying somatic trauma-informed coaching and the neuroaesthetics. And it just really tied all the different things that I was interested in and fascinated by into one kind of cohesive, sort of plaited bunch of threads. I'm still working in the interior space, and I'm still working with coaching, but I'm much more niched down. And the neuroaesthetics really did kind of blow my mind quite a lot. And I just loved learning. It's kind of like I went, oh, that's why I think like this. That's why I want that in this house. And it was like getting the backstory to what I was already doing. So it was really fascinating.
And the trauma things might make some people go, well, that isn't really for me. But obviously, the nervous system, we all have one, and
Yeah.
understanding how humans work and why that matters for our environment is as important to everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah, trauma is a heavy word. And yeah, we don't need to dive into that. But I think really what it means is that everybody's nervous system is interpreting the world around them through a set of lenses. And if you've walked through some traumas, it will interpret what's happening around you through the lens of what's happened to you. And it will stores it in the body. Our bodies store all the experiences that we've had, positive and negative, and we interpret through those things. So the trauma-informed lens is simply about bearing in mind what people have walked through as their nervous system interacts with their daily life. So, really, what I focus on is somatics and surroundings. And somatics is just how your body holds what you've walked through. Your nervous system is like a stage for what you've walked through, and it will interact with your surroundings, your life, your people, circumstances, whatever it is, it will interpret those things through the lens of what you've walked through up to this day. And the surroundings obviously makes an impact on that as well. So my kind of niche sort of focus is the somatics and the surroundings.
Fabulous. And obviously, based on that, the environment that we work in
Yeah.
massively impacts our productivity, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're uncomfortable, even whether you're consciously uncomfortable or unconsciously uncomfortable, it's going to have a significant effect on how you feel and how you therefore work.
Oh, absolutely. I think we very much underestimate how much our spaces impact us. Um, and again, that is where the sort of trauma-informed lens would come in, is you may I speak to people all the time who tell me things like, oh, I walk into the office and I get instant heart palpitations. And they can't figure out why. And it's always varying different reasons, but it could be something as simple as there is something or someone, let's not eliminate how difficult people can be, but like it's something or someone that has reminded your nervous system of something it's gone through in the past and it's responding to it as if it's a present threat. And
Yeah.
so it's getting ready to have a response, a fight or flight or whatever response. And so that is why they're having a heart palpitation. But it might be something to do with the environment that's doing that. It could be a certain type of color or a certain type of lighting or a certain type of artwork or a certain image, sometimes even a smell. It can trigger all kinds of things that we've not even clocked have made an impression on us. It doesn't have to be a big, huge, horrendous trauma. It can be little traumas, but they do make an impression. They do leave a mark, and that is what our nervous system is interpreting our surroundings through. So yes, our workplaces can have massive effect.
And obviously, we all experience the world through our physical senses, what we're
Yeah.
seeing, what we're smelling, even, and what we're touching. I don't think most people think about their workspace through that lens. They think, have I
Mm.
got enough storage space? Can I see the computer? Maybe is my neck at a funny angle because of this laptop? Where do most people go wrong when they're thinking about setting up a space for work?
Well, I think that's a difficult question because everybody's going to have different access. You and I have chatted about how we both have matching navy blue, beautiful offices that we that we are very lucky to have. But not everybody gets a room in their home or even a desk at home. Sometimes they're forced to go to an office and sit at a desk someone else has given them or in a cubicle or something. And I think that's when it can get tricky, because you have varying degrees of control over your environment. But I do think there are always lots of things that we can do to set ourselves up for success. But I think a lot of it is to do with self-awareness and understanding what you need to be productive. And I think often people come at it the other way around and they ask the question, well, I'm not being productive, and they wait to figure that out and then work backwards rather than going, okay, I'm a person who I know needs some plants, a candle, a nice picture, some relaxing fabric. And you can drape all kinds of things in a cubicle. Like there's all kinds of things you can do in a
Yeah.
cubicle to make it like a little sanctuary for yourself. Um, but people don't because I don't know, maybe they don't feel a sense of ownership or varying reasons. But I think also people limit it to their actual desk, and desks can get very focused on cables and screens, and they don't necessarily cater to, without sounding too cliche, mental health and well-being, which realistically is what is should be the priority because we spend so much of our time at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I remember someone I follow on LinkedIn who I used to work with, and he had a little ritual for setting up his desk every morning with a candle and and it was beautiful. It was a little self-help
Yeah.
ritual, if you like, to make his desk
Yeah.
a beautiful space for the creative thoughts that were to come. And I thought, oh, that's lovely. Most of us
Yeah.
might do a bit tidying, but the idea of intentionally adding or deciding, I thought was just brilliant.
Yeah. And I think also we underestimate how much our actual body in the space can also be worked with. That's the somatics part of what I do is you can actually train your body to respond in a certain way or give it a moment to come back to baseline or down regulate or whatever word you want to use. And sometimes the space has triggered it, and sometimes the space is not the issue, and it's actually just we need to remove ourselves or have a breath of fresh air or go for a walk or change position or all kinds of different things that are physical. Because, like you said, we experience the world through our senses physically first, and we often react to things before our brain has thought anything. Our body is doing it. So, dealing with the body and giving it those moments can make a dramatic effect, no matter where you work.
Yeah, absolutely. Which reminds me of I think it was a mini pod about music and how you can have
Yeah.
music kind of set you up for
Yeah.
changing modes almost. This is my going to work music. This is
Yeah.
my I'm winding down music. I have a song for my dogs that I play that I have trained them to relax to, and it's a very similar thing, right? You just play it when they're all
Amazing.
nice and relaxed. And now whenever I turn it on, everyone's like, ah,
Oh, that's
me
amazing.
included.
Yeah. Wow. Well
Yes.
done. Training your dogs to music. That's amazing.
I cannot take credit for that. That was a behaviorist. But basically, you get the dogs all nice and relaxed with long stroking, and you get their heartbeats all nice and low. And then you play the music and you just repeat that a few times and it sticks, right? It's just,
Wow.
yeah, it's a good tip. Works for humans as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'm sure we could do that
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just start to associate the music with the relaxation. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
simple, really. So, we talked about this when we had our first chat. Clutter, my personal pet hate, and the thing that will drive me completely crazy. I think this is an area where people start to feel a bit twitchy. What is actually happening in our brains when we are surrounded by mess? Let's be logical.
Oh, it's definitely my pet peeve as well. Um, Clutter is just noise. It's just like it's visual noise, and your brain will see it and will instantly be making to-do lists. It will view it as unclosed loops it needs to finish and unfinished business, tasks it has to do, and it will not fully let you rest if it's looking at things it thinks it needs to do. So yeah, clutter is such an it's the opposite of a productive environment. But there is a really important thing to differentiate here. There is a different like that there is a difference, and I think we're going to get to it, but there is a difference between decor and clutter.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of talk, particularly in the design world, where you have these sort of designers that talk about clean lines and very minimal aesthetic, which is a taste thing. I personally have thoughts on that, but it's basically all or nothing. It's get rid of anything and everything, which I don't necessarily think is the answer. But clutter, as in you go in the kitchen and there's just Tupperware everywhere, and there's open stuff and food bits and your brain looks at it and just goes, I don't know where to start. And I think there's a lot of people out there who, I'm one of these people. I cannot cook in a kitchen like that. I have to clean it all up first and have a
Yeah.
blank slate to make into a mess again. But I'm also a person that clears up as I go. So even when I'm sitting in a room and trying to work, I operate in the same way. If there's stuff that I need to put away or fold the laundry or put the cushions back in the right place or fold the blankets up and put them in the basket, I will, because otherwise my brain will just be like nagging in the background and there's something over there you need to do. So clutter, there is no way around it. Clutter is visual noise. And we all have different tolerance levels of it. And I think some people think that it doesn't bother them, but I don't necessarily think there's a way around it not impacting you
Yeah.
um, in a significant way.
And some people do say, oh, I work better in chaos. I am not one of them. Like you, if I want to sit down and do something difficult, I will probably have had to tidy the entire house first because it's
Yeah.
A, slight procrastination, but B, I know I concentrate better when
Yeah.
things are clean and tidy and, I can really then just get my head down. But some people do go, oh, yeah, I just work, but I'm creative. I work better with, stuff around. Are they are they just used to it? Have they just built a baseline?
Well, that is an interesting question. I think if that was a client of mine, I'd probably want to do some digging as to why they think they feel safer in a mess. And there's probably a historical reason for that. There's probably something that they've gone through that's conditioned their nervous system into thinking it's safer in chaos than it would be in a clear atmosphere. And I don't know what that would be.
Mm.
There could be millions of things
Yeah,
for the reasons for that. But in terms of our brains, I don't think that's possible. I just it doesn't the math doesn't math.
yeah.
Um, So I'm a super creative person. I'm an artist, a musician. I've always been, interiors is super creative. I am this person, and it is inhibitive, if that's the right word,
Yeah.
for me and my creativity to have mess and chaos around me. And I'm not saying I'm the right way to do things. I know that everybody's different, but I can't from the brain science side of it, I can't see how your creativity could be fully unleashed if you are surrounding yourself with chaos and visual noise that your brain will see.
Yeah. Yeah. And we did a book, and I can't remember what the book was called now. That's helpful. Um, of this guy who went one step beyond that, and he was a writer, and he literally used to stare at a blank wall when he was writing. Now, for me, I can't do that. That's too far the other
That's
way.
yeah, yeah.
But I kind of get the point. He wants no distractions, nothing to think about, nothing at all. But yeah. So if somebody is sitting there listening to this going, "Oh my God, it's a bit of a disaster," what simple steps could people start without, being overwhelmed by an entire room or an entire house? What
Well,
simple steps could
I
someone
think
do?
I think the most important thing to understand about people is that our nervous system is constantly looking to feel safe. It's looking to feel like it belongs. And it's scanning all the time for threats and positives and negatives. It's looking for things that remind it it's safe and it's looking for things that might threaten that. And so when it comes to clutter, this is what I was saying about the decor. I having a few key pieces and a few things around the room that are meaningful and intentional, like you've got a few behind you, I've got a few behind me, they actually have a very positive effect on our nervous system, on being able to stay in a really regulated place because we see them and we respond to them and we feel safe. We feel we belong. And there's a part of our story is there in front of us. And that really helps a person stay grounded. So that's why decor and clutter, I try and differentiate because having something intentionally there to tell your nervous system that you're safe, you belong here, this is part of your story, my space is your story, that would be very helpful for productivity because your brain will focus on the tasks because it feels safe. So I think for me, my advice when I take on clients that are design clients, we do a whole audit on, actually, it's the same audit I do for coaching clients and interior clients, but it's a whole audit about all of this stuff, about how they interpret and how they feel in different spaces and different objects and different artworks and colors and all these different things. And we work towards creating environments and approaches to business. And there's so much overlap because you're going to approach your business from a space somewhere, that can set yourself up for safety and your nervous system actually feeling like, do you know what? We're good here. Let's get on with it. Because it won't get on with it if it's constantly feeling on edge.
Yeah.
So a practical step would be to create a space if you can, if you've got the freedom to do that, that has a mixture of meaningful and intentional things, whether it's pictures or photographs or a little ornament of some kind or a reminder of, the best holiday you've ever had or whatever it is. Everybody's different. Those are the things that really help settle you so you can focus. So it is really important to kind of get the two working together.
Yeah.
If you want to be super productive, your nervous system has to be compliant.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which reminds me, actually, I now sit with my back to this facing the door. And whenever I go to a restaurant and I have the option, I will always sit with my back so I'm facing the room,
Hmm.
essentially. I spent a long time working as a restaurant manager, and you never, ever, ever sat with your back to the room because you couldn't see what was going on. So it
Yeah.
makes me slightly twitchy if my back is to the room. And since I've had my study done and I face this way, apart from the fact it's a nice colour, there's definitely something about actually my back is safe. Like
Yeah.
assassins. I joke
Yeah.
whenever someone, oh, it's like, can I sit there? Because, assassins. And it's only partly joking. I do feel safer with a solid back somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knew?
There's probably a reason something happened to
Yeah,
you at some point in your life where you felt
yeah,
like you needed to have your back against some. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly it. People don't, and we don't need to sit around and analyze that. If that's how you feel safer, unless you want to dig into that. There's no, but it's a quite a neutral thing. What does it matter if you face the room
yeah,
or not? There'll be loads of things for people exactly like that, where it's just kind of probably if you dug into it, there'd be a reason in a story, but you feel safer like this, so fine.
yeah,
But it will affect your ability to focus and your ability to actually find that baseline regulated space where your nervous system feels safe. And that is a place of productivity right there.
yeah, exactly. Love
Yeah.
that. Had never thought of that before in terms of work. I always think of it in terms of restaurants. Very rarely thought of it in terms of my desk. But now I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Colour's the other one I get very excited about. Feels like it should
Right.
be a simple thing. We all see those charts where blue is calm and red is vibrant, but I suspect it's probably a lot more complex than that. Is it really?
I mean, yeah, color is an interesting one because there's philosophies, and I wouldn't, especially when you go into the design world, you've got people that have, they specialize in, maximalist design and this kind of design, and those are all down to taste.
Yeah.
And I think you might love magenta pink and bright red together on a wall, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I can't tell you how many times I've had clients, particularly design clients, they are absolutely convinced that they need to have these crazy colors, but then they can't calm down at home. They cannot rest. And I'm like, yeah, because you
Because you're
painted your
staring at red and
painted
magenta.
your bedroom lime green and luminous yellow. And I have to, talk them off the edge of the cliff, so to speak. It isn't as simple as that. Blue is only calming if it's calming for you. I don't find blue to be particularly calming. I say this is actually my husband's office, so it's not
Yeah.
actually what I would do for mine.
Yeah.
But it depends on who you are and what your body responds to, and that is entirely dependent on your story.
Yeah.
Um, so it is a little bit more complicated than that. And I think when, one of the questions I often get asked is, okay, well, this is a family home. How do we design a space that
Yeah.
fits multiple people? Because all of us have a different story. You have teenagers like this, kids like that, parents like this, grandparents like that sometimes. How do we make the space work for everyone? And my response to that is, okay, we have to take it back to the common denominator. And the common denominator for everybody is nature. Nature is there. It's the best regulating force there is out there, whether that is color, texture, um, or just literally going outside. That is the most regulating thing you can do. So if I have to approach a space that is intended for multiple people, which is, if you think about it, if you go to a hot desking center, what is the decor like? It's usually neutral
Yeah.
and it's covered in linen and beige and lots of plants usually
Yeah.
as well.
Lots of plants.
That is why, because it's the common denominator. It's least offensive, it's most calming, and it's as close to nature as you can get
Mm.
en masse anyway. I mean, if it
Yes,
was in a home,
exactly.
you can do more, but
Yes.
so that is my approach for when there's multiple people. But usually I will try to talk my clients into more neutral and nature-based tones. And then if you want to put bright pink in it, get a vase or a cushion that you can chuck or move or hide when your brain goes, no. Um, and same with textures and surfaces. It's wood and natural textures, linens, fabric, hessian, jute rugs, these kinds of things. They actually do have a calming effect on us.
Mm.
Um, More so than, a high gloss kitchen. It's going to
Yes.
make your brain go, whoa, it's very reflective and it's a stimulating thing. And they're very small details, but when you multiply that across a whole house, your
Yeah.
ability to actually rest, and particularly if you are recovering from trauma, which is often what is the case with my clients, it matters hugely, hugely what those textures are doing to you. If you walk into the kitchen and your body kind of goes onto high alert because that texture is quite, I don't know the word for it, but it's quite a statement.
Mhm.
It's not an inviting, soft, relaxing, nature-based tone. You're not going to function well in that space, and you're going to find that cooking and functioning in that room becomes stressful and dysregulating to you. So I have to ask a million questions to try and understand what everybody is, what they need, what their body is responding to, what they're carrying inside, and how that lens is interpreting what I put in front of them. And color is huge,
Yeah.
huge for that.
And obviously, we're very lucky. We can splash paint around in our
Yeah,
own offices. Not everybody has that, if you're in a
yeah,
workspace. So I really hope there aren't that many people still working in cubicles these days, but maybe there are.
yeah.
What, presumably a bit like bringing in your pebble from your favorite holiday or your picture or whatever. Are there ways we can bring color into an environment when we are perhaps stark white all over?
I mean, it when I visualize cubicles, I'll be honest, I've never worked in an environment like that, so I don't feel like I can massively comment. But I would have thought in my head, visualized those sort of three-quarter
Yeah.
height. I would be there with pins draping fabric and
Fairy lights.
linen. Yes, exactly. Fairy lights and some linen and a nice piece of art. That's what I would be doing.
Yeah.
Putting a plant there, and you can easily take that all down, but it would make a huge difference if
Yeah.
you could do something like that.
Yeah.
Fabric actually can go a long way, and it's very easy to shove. on walls in
Yeah.
windows. You know, it's
Yeah, I've got my random bit of fluff here because I
yeah,
like it.
yeah,
It just makes me feel cozy. I love it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't really have a purpose apart from making me feel cozy, but
And that's okay.
that's
That is a
okay.
purpose.
That is its purpose, exactly. Um, and talking about, obviously, we've talked a lot about physical clutter, colors. When you're thinking, and you and I had a really interesting discussion about this, and it I liked it a lot because it challenged my thinking a bit. So when you're thinking about work and your environment, obviously you have to think about your body and what that most of us work quite long hours. When
Yeah.
your body is in a position, it has to be comfortable, right?
Yeah.
But you talk about physical comfort in quite a liberated way rather than make sure you've got a decent chair, which would be kind of how I would come at it. So
Yeah.
expand on how you think about physical comfort, like in posture and that kind of thing.
Well, I think we're quite limited in how we approach work. And again, this is very much not everybody has these freedoms. You can't, go to a hot desking place. Well, maybe you can, I don't know. But I would expect that you can't just go into WeWork and, set up camp on the floor.
I
Um,
would imagine you'd get some looks, yeah.
yeah, you might. And maybe you don't care and then go good for you. But I've definitely learned. I've been self-employed for about 20 years, and I've definitely learned that a desk is not actually the most productive place for me to sit all day, every day. I have moments and podcasts and, times and spaces when, yes, I need to really have clear space and set myself up with the screens and all of that. But the majority of my time, I am far happier sitting on the floor or sitting on an armchair with a cushion on my knee or whatever. And it's really actually helpful to have options and be able to move around. And it doesn't have to always fit the same shape. We're very conditioned that work means desk, swivel chair, multiple screens, elevated laptop, all these things. And it can mean that. And for some people, it may be the most comfortable thing, and that's fine. But I think for me, I've been recording my own podcast and online courses and stuff, and I've recorded all of it on the floor because I find it more comfortable and I feel far more grounded sitting on the floor. I've actually noticed increasingly people, friends I have around, they often say the same thing. Can we just sit on the floor? And we end up just sitting around the coffee table and, enjoying some snacks and wine, and we're all on the floor. And I've got lovely chairs right there, but nobody wants them. So, I think we've got to be a little bit more kind to our bodies, and sometimes doing what everybody tells you is the correct way to work isn't necessarily the most comfortable, the most productive, the most helpful, or whatever. So I just like to see people playing with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and not feeling fixed.
Yeah,
That's the thing. And I think there's something for me about I have oh God, how long have I been self-employed now? Oh, flipping ages, 12 years, something. I
yeah,
still have a mental battle with myself about being at my desk 9 to 5, even though it matters to nobody except me whether
yeah,
I am at my desk 9 to 5, right? Nobody cares. As long as I do the job I need to do, I could not turn up at all, and honestly, no one would be any the wiser, right?
yeah,
If I, worked on Saturday and skipped Mondays, really no one would notice. But it's a kind of institutionalization that I just can't seem to get past. And sitting at a chair is part of that as well, right?
yeah.
It seems very counterintuitive, but I know from all the podcasts we've done, all the research we've done, actually going for a walk would be far more productive than sitting at my desk. I mean,
Oh
probably,
yeah, oh
just
yeah,
fresh air, 20 minutes and thinking. It's not that you're not working, you're maybe thinking, or maybe you're deliberately not thinking, which actually gives your brain a bit of time to calibrate that problem that you've been trying to suss out, right? But it's just,
yeah.
I think, for me anyway, I think a lot of people are much better at it than I am. I think
I
I'm
I think
rebelling.
that's a very, very important thing to acknowledge. I think I've actually noticed that when I work in a way that fits me, whether that is giving myself I'm a hyper focusing person. So if I start work and I don't take a lunch break, I don't sit and remove myself for an hour and then return. I don't do that. I grab something and I just keep going and I just keep working because I'm on a roll and I'm in the zone, and for sure I've had to teach myself, do you know what? Because I'm not taking breaks, actually, if I start at 9:30 or quarter to 10, God forbid, is actually okay because I'm far more productive than a lot of average, people who are doing 9 to 5 and taking a lunch break and whatever. And the same thing goes with walking.
Yeah.
Going for a 20-minute walk will probably make your next hour 10 times more productive than if you stuck at home and just bashed it out and it was just ugh.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I've chosen also to do a 4-day week
Yeah.
because I think it's more productive. I get far more done when I'm in the zone and focused. And then actually, the 3-day weekend is really revitalizing because you've actually made progress. You feel good about it, and you have that day to just do the errands and do the cleaning and do whatever it is you need to do, and then have a weekend.
Yes, then still have your actual weekend as opposed to half your
Exactly.
weekend being basically life admin. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
exactly.
Totally. No, I love that. Um, and now, good stuff. We've talked about a lot about nature, which I love. Really,
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by plant. My house basically looks like some kind of greenhouse. Every room you go into is a jungle. It's kind of got away with itself. But I live in a house with lots of light, and my old house was this sort of dark place. So it's such a novelty that plants stay alive that I
Yeah.
kind of just keep getting them. So love a plant. But you think beauty is actually genuinely healing. It's not just a nice to have, which I think people are starting to get that in shared offices, right? They are starting to understand it's not just about functionality. There has to be some joy in there as well.
Yeah. Well, I think I actually recently had a very fascinating conversation with a lady who works in hospital design,
Ooh.
which I think is, the next level of corporate spaces. We don't think of it as a corporate space at all, do you?
Don't,
But
but neither do you think of it as a welcoming, nice, pleasant space
life,
either.
life-giving, like
No, none of
I
those
want to
things.
wake up and live here. Like you would
No,
never. It's the most depressing place you can
it
go to
is.
get
It
well.
really is. My heart just
Um,
sank just thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually had a really interesting conversation about that, and there's some really big shifts happening, I think, in that space, which I suspect would have ramifications and knock-on effects for shared office spaces as well. And that is simply this, that your spaces actually matter. They have a huge impact on us. And if you create a sterile environment that has offensive, frankly, offensive colours in it, and the other day I was at the hospital with my daughter and we were sat there and I just sat there and looked around myself and thought, who on God's green earth thought that green and that pink should appear on the same wall?
Oh no.
And not just that, this is supposed to be a place where people come to get better, and it's like just an assault on the eyes and just, oh. So it does have an effect.
Yeah.
And I think the link between nervous system health, productivity, and well-being all wrapped up in our environment is it's just a huge topic, and I think it's one that people are becoming more aware of for sure. But I do think that we as humans, this is why everybody loves nature because it's beautiful. It feeds your soul, it regulates your nervous system, it makes you feel alive on the inside. And that is that can happen in your home. That can happen in your office if you hire the right person. But it can. The spaces can give the same effect on a person. And that's what I love about my job is you get to create these homes and these spaces for people where they actually feel like it feeds them rather than drains them.
Yeah.
And that's just the saddest thing for me to hear is people just feeling like so disconnected from their spaces, and it's like a drain on their energy. And they hate going home because ugh, and they don't like their sofa and they don't like and the lighting is another one
Oh
that's
yeah.
just
Yes,
people are
lighting
like,
is
I've
very
got
different.
migraines, and I'm like, yeah, because you've got blue lights in your house. You know, blue white light is just the worst. It's proven to give migraines, and people's
Wow.
put them in their houses and offices, and because they're cheap, but they are
Ah.
terrible for you. Terrible.
Wow, I didn't know that one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I know there's a college near me where they had, I think, is it called sick office syndrome or something? And people were literally dropping like flies because whoever designed this building in the, I'm going to say 70s, might be 80s, but basically it was horrible. There was not enough natural daylight. They hadn't done anything about making it feel like a nice place to work. And yeah, it was really bad. And they did a study on it in the end. Can't remember the ins and outs, but it's amazing the difference it makes, right? You
Yeah.
kind of just go, oh,
Yeah.
surely it's a couple of plants. And it's like, well, in the bigger picture, it can actually have a massive impact on
Yeah,
people's
I think the
health.
plant, the plants is part of it, but I think the more we can mimic nature,
Yeah,
and that's the lighting part as well. That blue light has no place in nature.
yeah. No,
Um, and also the placement of lighting and the types of lighting you have at times of day, the more we can mimic the natural circadian rhythms, the daylight, the dulling of the light, it helps you come down at the end of the day. So I have this argument with my parents-in-law constantly, who like to turn every single light in the entire house on at all times. And I'm just like, if I sit in my living room with the big lights on, we have a rule in our house. We never put the big light on. Never.
no, I no.
It's
I mean,
purely decorative at this point.
yes. I mean, I've got lampshades on them and everything, but they've never known to be used ever, really.
No, they are just no. And the reason is because it's unnatural. When you have the need to put a light on, if you put a big light on, your brain thinks it's the sun. It thinks it's time to wake up. So if you're in the evening and you put the big light on, you're like, woo, and your body can't just go on off like a light switch.
Ah,
So if you use lower lights, both brightness wise, but also positioning wise, it really helps your body understand it's getting
mm,
dark. I'm coming down to nighttime to sleep, and it improves your quality of rest, which will improve your work life. So
ah,
it all of these things have an effect, and you add it all together, and it's a massively impacting thing.
brilliant. And for those people who say, I cannot keep a plant alive for more than 5 minutes in my
That is
environment,
me.
or, maybe you're not in a room with natural daylight, God forbid. I notice you've got some sort of natural-esque things in your background that aren't plants, but they're still sort of naturey.
Yeah, the pampas. Yeah, the
Yeah,
dried flowers or the
yeah.
fake flowers. Fake
Fla-
plants have
Is fake
gotten
okay?
good.
Fake's all
Sorry?
right.
I mean, you can trick your brain. Why not? I think there are some really good ones out
There
there.
are.
I think
Yeah.
they look more and more like the real one. And I think particularly I did actually have a job that's why I quit, in an office space that had no natural light. And I was just like, you know what? It's not worth the migraines. No paycheck is
No.
worth this. And there was just nothing about it that had anything natural in it. Um, but they did have some fake plants, and that was my little like, just look at the olive tree in the corner. That's but you can get some really nice things, and they can really make a difference for sure.
Yeah.
And the dried stuff is good as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. That's a really good tip for those who can't keep spider plants alive. It's all good.
I
Um,
no judgment. I kill all plants at some point.
yeah, I have a friend who basically says it's not that I kill plants, it's just that they're not up to the job in this high-paced environment. And I think
It's their fault.
it's
It's
their fault,
completely
right?
their
They're not up
fault.
to scratch.
They're
It's
not
like,
committed.
no, quite. And the other one we haven't really touched on, but I find it a fascinating one. Smell.
Mm,
I once talked to a woman, and I'm trying not to be judgy, but it may happen, who is from New York and needed an assistant to help her design a fragrance for her office because her office needed its own fragrance.
okay. That's
Yeah,
that's niche.
very, right?
Um, that's a very subjective thing. I think again, it depends on how many people are using the space. If this is a communal corporate office space and one person is designing a scent, that is going to be entirely shaped and designed around that one person's preferences, which will be shaped by their own story.
Yes.
Um,
I think it was just for her corner office in a very big
okay,
thing.
so
I
so
think it
then
was
that
just for her, right?
then
But
that's fine. But I would probably want to. I mean, I'm not a scent designer, but again, why? What scents is she pulling towards, and why? And what
yeah,
do they actually? What's happening in her brain? What's it reminding her of? What's
yeah,
essentially the opposite of a trigger? You want the happy one, which is called a glimmer.
yeah,
It's where your brain is basically triggered by good things. Um, and that would be where you would want to focus on those is what are the
yeah,
amazing memories with it and the places I felt most secure, most safe, most at home, most sense of story and belonging. What are the memories there?
mhm,
And how do we make it into a scent,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. No, it is fascinating. And a bit like the music thing, you could train yourself that if you have a particular kind of candle that you only have burning at work,
Yeah.
that smell means, right, I'm alert, I'm working. Whereas you have
Yeah.
one in your living room or your bedroom, which is more, calming and whatever. So it's again just using your senses to
Yeah.
help
But
you be
I think
relaxed or not.
that is a potentially, if you're in a communal space, that is a
Yeah.
not something that you could. I mean, again return to the baseline. I would say, go for something like fresh linen or something that, is just a happy place for everybody.
Yes.
But because you just don't know what people's stories have had in them. And if you go, well, let's put on this patchouli and cedarwood candle over here, this person's suffered this horrendous story that had that scent somehow. And
Yep.
you have
Yeah.
this moment where you have complete opposites. It's productive for that person and totally triggering for this person. And
Yeah. Not
yeah,
good. Not good. Oh, that was fascinating. Thank you so much, Natanya.
that's
Um,
a pleasure.
so if you had to give one sort of environment productivity tip to people, one thing that could make a difference to somebody if they could do it, maybe this weekend as a little tip, what would you suggest?
Um, I think clutter is a big one. Um, even if it's about investing in some nice wicker baskets that you can hide things that clutter your space so it at least looks a little bit. And again, that's a natural texture, so it will have a more calming effect. But that kind of thing, it's paying attention to things that we don't think matter. I think that's probably the biggest push that I try to make my clients think about is they'll often go, "Oh, it doesn't, curtains don't matter. Oh, that's the color on the walls. I don't care as long as, And I'm like, well, actually, it really matters. It can really have an effect on you. So I think it's trying to think about the little things that you've disregarded or thinking about the clutter, which are all little things usually, all of
Yeah.
them, everything.
Yeah.
And trying to make a space that you can exhale in and really actually breathe. Because it can happen in an office, interestingly. You can
Yeah.
actually function if we pay
You can
attention and
function.
like
Honestly, you
actually
can.
yeah, be intentional with it and make it your own and yeah.
Brilliant. So everyone listening, go look at your workspace with some fresh eyes, not necessarily just as a paint color, but as something that's actively working with you or possibly against you. So that's something to think about. Natanya, if people want to find you, we will put all your contact details in the show notes, but where's the best place to track you down?
It's probably the website.
Perfect.
There's lots of ways to connect through there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, that has been Productivity Nerd. Thanks, Natanya.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I don't know about you, but I am going to immediately go and move some stuff around my desk after that conversation. I say I don't do clutter, but I have to say my desk has been better. So I've learned some stuff. What I really love about speaking to Natanya and the work she does, it's not necessarily about having a beautiful office for the sake of it, although why not? It's about understanding that actually your environment is constantly communicating with your nervous system, whether you're paying attention to that or not. So the clutter, the light or lack thereof, or too much, the colour, that fuchsia she was talking about, and I love fuchsia. Even the chair you're sitting on, if it's got a bit old and tired, it all adds up to how you feel about work. So, if today's episode has made you feel slightly uncomfortable about the state of your desk, good, it has me too. Go and give it a bit of a tidy because you can have the best productivity systems in the world, but if your environment is battling against that, then you are swimming upstream before you've even started. So, until next time, I'm Kathy Soulsby, and this has been Productivity Nerd.